Hi, my name is Evan Simmons, and I'm the Information Systems Coordinator in the Georgia Tech Office of Undergraduate Admission. In my role, one of my main responsibilities is reviewing and verifying the tuition classification status of each student who requests it. As a public institution, Georgia Tech must verify the tuition classification status for each student who requests it. This is a process that is mandated by the Georgia General Assembly with guidance from the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia and Georgia Tech policy. The main thing to understand about tuition classification is how you're viewed, whether you're a dependent student or you're an independent student. A dependent student is a student who was under the age of 24, which means that within your application, we're going to ask for information about your parents, such as their tax filing status, voter registration, motor vehicle registration, and much more. It is very important that within your application, you stop and you ask them for help, because how you answer these questions determines how we're able to move forward. An independent student is defined by the university system as a student who is 24 years of age or older, which means that we're going to make a decision on your classification based on the information you submit within your application. You may be asking, how do I request in-state tuition classification? Easy. Within your application, simply answer yes to the question, do you want to be considered for in-state tuition? When you answer yes to that, within 2 weeks of the submission of your application, we will complete our initial review and or submit a request for secondary or supplemental information. One thing I want you to consider within this process is that as we're completing our review, we need to review each student independently, which means that for our transfer students, even if a prior USG institution granted you in-state tuition classification, we must independently verify that with our office. We may request information from the prior USG institution and from you in order to verify that status. There are a few special considerations within this process. Legal guardians. If you have a legal guardian or are under legal guardianship, we must have the legal guardian documentation as signed by a U.S. court-appointed judge. We must also receive the certified taxes from the Georgia Department of Revenue. Don't worry, we will send you a form to request this information. Permanent residents, we will need your permanent resident card in order to complete our review. If your PR card is going to expire prior to classes starting, or you recently obtained it, we may request supplemental information from you in order to make a decision. If you're one of our military families, we want to do our best to serve you, but we may need additional information from you, such as your DD-214. Military families, we may also refer you to another process called a military waiver. This is because sometimes we're not able to grant you in-state classification, but we can make sure that you are able to pay the in-state price when we request the information. Within our process, there are a few decisions that we can make. The first one is Georgia residency, which is what everyone wants. This means that you're classified as a Georgia resident and you're going to pay the in-state tuition price. We do this by looking at all of the information, and if there is clear and convincing evidence that you are a Georgia resident between our initial and our secondary review, you will receive that status. Our second decision that we're able to use is a petition. A petition is a way for us to refer you to the registrar's office so that they can complete a more in-depth review of your status and documentation to ensure that you're eligible for in-state status and classification. Our third option is a waiver. This differs slightly from our petition. With a petition, you are classified as a Georgia resident and you pay in-state tuition. With our students who receive a waiver, when we refer you to this process, you will not be classified as a Georgia resident, but you will pay in-state tuition and you will still be eligible for your Georgia Hope and Zell Miller as determined by our Office of Financial Aid. Our last decision is non-Georgia resident. If the review, based on the policy of the University System of Georgia and Georgia Tech policy, you are ineligible for in-state tuition classification, we will let you know that. Unfortunately, this does mean that you're not eligible for in-state tuition or any of those benefits. If you have questions, please reach out to our office and email us directly at tc@admission.gatech.edu.